Hi everyone, this is Madhav. This is going to be a concise tutorial on how to make a sailboat go into the wind. The sailboats we're going to look at, they're going to be top down. So here you see the hull of a boat, and this is the sail. Cool, we're looking at it top down. So the first thing to realize is, how do sailboats work? They can only move in two directions. It can go this way, or it can go this way. Whichever direction this white thing called the hull of the sailboat is pointing in, that defines the possible lines of motion for the entire boat. However, the thing is that we can rotate the boat using its rudder. The rudder is going to be back here. It basically allows us to, over time, change the direction that the hull is pointing in. So you could navigate this boat to a different position where it's now pointing like this, and it will now move forward or back in this direction. But the key point still stands. Boat, in any given moment, the direction that this white part, the hull, is pointing in, it's going to move in that direction. This red thing is the sail. The sail we can rotate the direction of. So let's say I had the same boat, pointing in the horizontal direction, but now I rotated the sail, so it's pointing this way. Or I rotated the sail, so it's pointing that way. So the sail we can adjust. This white hull, that part, we can adjust a little bit less. Whichever direction it's going in, that's the direction the boat's moving in. Now, let's say that I just consider the boat for one moment in time. And I want to figure out, well, is it going to move to the left or is it going to move to the right? It's pretty simple, right? If the wind is pointing this way, well, the sail is going to be blown this way. And if the sail is being blown this way, then the boat will be pulled along that way. Pretty simple. If the wind is moving the other way, now the sail is being pushed along this way, and that means the boat ends up going in that way. So moving with the wind is pretty simple. Now let's consider what happens if we want to move perpendicularly to the wind, because that will be our stepping point into moving against the wind. So let's say the wind is being blown this way, right? Now we're going to have our boat pointing this way. So it can only move perpendicularly, either this way or it can move that way. It's going to try and move perpendicularly to the wind. Well, how can we do that? Well, if we just, have our sail pointing as usual in a direction that seems common, sail's this way, boat is that way, well, nothing's going to happen, because the sails can only blow outwards this way. You can't have a sail blowing sideways, that's not how sails work. So if you tried this, nothing would happen. The sails aren't pointing into the wind, so you would have no force from the sail to move the boat. Nothing would happen. So clearly this is not what we want. What if we try the opposite? What if we try to have the sails pointing in the same direction as the boat? Well, if the wind's blowing this way, it's going to push the sails outward that way, which is now going to tip the boat over. That's not what we want either. So the boat, it has to move this way or that way. The force from the sails, that's not helping. So this is not what we want either. Okay, so if the sails can't be horizontal, they can't be vertical, what if we try diagonal? What if we try to have our sails like this? Well, in this case, what we know is the sails they can't, you know, they can't blow this way, they can't blow that way, they have to go outwards. So if the sails are pointing in this direction, then they're gonna blow outwards in that direction. Okay, so the sails are pulling the boat along in that direction. Let's make this kind of like a line. So the boat's being pulled along, you know, this line here. But unfortunately, the boat cannot move along that line here. It can only move up or down along this vertical axis. Alright, well, I'm not gonna get too fancy with mathematical terms here. Just note, okay, if the boat has option A, move this way, or B, move that way, well, this, you know, this force from the sails, it seems closer to B than A. So with that, you know, simple-ish description, okay, this arrow seems closer to this arrow than the other one, we will conclude that the boat will end up going downwards. And so this is a key setup that we have here. Okay, this is our intermediary step. We had the wind blowing right to left, but the boat is moving up and down. And the way that we made that happen was we had to rotate the sail. It's usually gonna be like this, but in this configuration the boat wouldn't move, so it had to be like this, you know, diagonally. Now we're ready to tackle the big question. What if we wanted to make the boat move against the direction of the wind? So we have a boat somewhere around this point here. We wanted to get to this point here. How will we do that if the wind is not blowing in that direction? The first thing to realize is you can't have a boat directly start at this point and then end up over there. The reason is no matter which way you orient your sails, you know, you could do it this way, where the sails are going to be pushing that way. That's not what we want. You could do it this way, where the sails will be generating no force. That's not what we want. You could try diagonally, but then the sails are going to again blow outwards, right? So they go that way, and you can see that this arrow is closer to this arrow than this arrow, and so the boat would still end up moving in the way that we don't want. So having the boat pointing directly in the direction we want, that's not going to work. We need to think a little bit more outside the box. Okay, well, pointing the boat like this, that's kind of not going to work, because, you know, we know that if the boat is pointing this way, it can only ever go that way or this way, which is not going to get it any closer to this other point. Okay, so we can't have the boat be pointing horizontally, we can't have it be pointing vertically, as we kind of did last time. Let's make it point diagonally. Okay, this is the only option we have left. We have to make it point diagonally. But now comes the question, which way do we point the sails so that the boat ends up moving this way, which is closer to the point we want, instead of that way, which is further from the point we want? Again, we can kind of go through our different options, you know. We could try to have the sail be pointing this way, horizontally. Okay, that doesn't work. The sail's not going to have any force because, you know, the wind is blowing this way. The sail cannot extend sideways. It needs to extend either this way or the other way. So that's not going to work. We could try it vertically. Does that work? Well, the sail goes in this direction. Is this arrow closer to this arrow over here or that arrow over there? Okay, it's closer to that. So that's not going to work either. Which, as is becoming a common theme, leaves us only one option. We need to make the sail diagonal. Okay, let's say we do that. we could try making the sail diagonal in the same direction as the boat. Okay, how about this? Does this work? Well, the sail's gonna blow this way, which is kind of like halfway in the middle of this way and the other direction. I don't know. Is this thing closer? Is that thing closer? What's gonna happen is the boat's not gonna move very well in this configuration because, like, you know, there's not too much force from the sail going in either of the directions that the boat could go in. Okay, so not such a great direction here. What if we try the other diagonal? Okay, so this is another diagonal. Is this gonna work? Is this gonna help us? Well, in this case, the sail is gonna go and blow this way because, you know, the wind's coming in over here. But this arrow, very clearly, it's going and pointing closer to this direction, in fact, exactly along that direction instead of the direction we want here. Okay, so we can't do this, we can't do that. Well, how about something in the middle of these two? How about something like this? Or maybe like this? How about this? Okay, this is a little bit better. So the wind comes in here. Alright. Most of the wind's just gonna rush past, but a little bit is gonna, you know, go point in this direction. And now we can see that this arrow is closer towards this arrow compared to the other direction. Alright, so we have an initial first solution. We can just make the boat point diagonally, while the sail, it's almost pointing the same way as the boat, but we just rotated it to be a little bit further away from the direction that the wind's coming from. Now, we could do this and have kind of like a less extreme angle for the boat, so that we get some more force on these sails. So let's see. Let's say I have boats, you know, it's not pointing as extremely as I had before, it's a little bit less extreme. We're gonna again not have the sails be pointing exactly along the axis of the boat, we're gonna have them rotated a little bit so that they're just slightly off, you know, they're not pointing in the exact same direction, they're just a little bit rotated further away from the direction that the wind's coming in here. Wind blows the sail outwards here, and then this arrow versus this arrow. Okay, the boat's gonna move in this direction. This arrow is closer, so the boat ends up meandering its path down here. At this point, the boat can use its rudder that I mentioned at the beginning, you know, this little device at the back of the boat, which pushes water one way or the other to create another force, but anyways, it'll use its rudder to rotate. So now the boat is kind of pointing this way. Alright, let's get rid of the wind arrows that are far away, make them a little bit closer, so the wind's coming in here. Again, we're going to start off with the sail pointing in the same direction, but then just slightly skew it off so that it's a little bit far away from the wind, this way. Wind comes in here, sail goes that way, which is closer to this arrow than the other direction, down here. Which means that the boat now goes and travels along this path over here. Okay, we're making progress, we're getting closer towards our end goal. We're gonna keep repeating these steps, so the boat kinda has to make this diagonal journey where the wind is always pointing this way against the direction we want to head in. We take our sails, and then instead of having them exactly in the same direction as the boat, we point them slightly further away so that the sails blow this way and the boat moves this way, and over time we're able to get where we want. Here we are. Nope, other way. Here we are. Nope. Okay, last time. Here we are. Here's the wind coming in, sails being pushed that way, and so boat is pushed this way, and we get to our destination. So to get a boat to go against the wind, you have to do this zigzagging pattern, making sure to rotate the sails so that the wind blows them in a direction that's closer to one arrow instead of the other, because the boat can only ever travel in these directions. Hopefully you can now search up a real life video that shows you this in practice.